Today we're going to be talking about my top 4 mass building fundamentals. So these are 4 things that must be in place for you to build muscle. The first one, very simply, you need to be in a caloric surplus. You need to be consuming more calories than you're expending. There's a great quote from Lyle McDonald that says you can't build muscle out of wishful thinking and thin air. That's so true. You need to be in a surplus. So how do you know whether you're in a surplus or not? My first recommendation for you would be to go on an online calorie calculator and basically work out your hypothetical maintenance calories. Okay, so I've actually done another video on this. I know some people will argue, oh, these aren't 100% accurate. That's not the point. The point is to give yourself a figure to work from. So my actual recommendation is to actually go from your maintenance calories, plug that in for a week, and that ideally will maintain weight on that first week. The reason I haven't just randomly added 500 calories on top of this is just we don't know how that figure is going to pan out. And then, for instance, we don't want an individual to kind of gain 2-3 pounds of fat in that first week, so it's best to kind of err on the side of caution, then we can slowly add calories back in. So just say, for instance, they do maintain their weight in that first week. That's perfect, because then we know unequivocally those are their maintenance calories for the amount of work we're doing in the gym, their lifestyle, etc. So then after that, a very good starting point would be add kind of 5 to 10% of calories on top of that, probably in the form of carbohydrates. So once protein and fat are set, it's mainly going to be carbohydrates and a small amount of fat slowly walking up. And the reason we're adding carbohydrates can really help with gym performance, strength in the gym. So in turn they're going to help with greater poundages being used. So like I said, once protein, fat sets, going to be carbohydrates going to slowly walk up. So like I said, I've given you 2 figures there, between 5 and 10%. And it really depends on the individual. A more advanced individual would certainly recommend erring on the side of caution. Certainly on the 5% end, purely because they've already gained a larger degree of muscle from their previous year's training. The amount of muscle they're going to build now is going to be much slower. Beginner may be worth erring on a 10% increase. And it's also adding just a little bit of a caveat in this. Just say, for example, we've got an individual who's just come out of an extended dieting phase. I would recommend, if that is the type of individual working with, almost a reverse dieting method, which is what we're doing here. However, we're going to add calories in much more slowly. Okay, so they're essentially that individual primed for fat gain. So just add a little caveat. I'm talking about an individual that has been in maintenance calories for a while now, and then we're going to slowly add calories on top of that. So the second mass building fundamental, progressive overload, progressive tension overload. You need to be adding more weight to the bar on all your compound lifts over a chronic period of time, adding more volume. Essentially, will be more sets. You need to be doing more work progressively over a chronic period of time. So this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be making progress weekly, but certainly if we look to your volume and strength from now compared to 16 weeks away, it needs to be a progressive adding of volume, adding of weight to the bar, predominantly in your big compound lifts, so things like your squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead pressing movements. Next thing, I actually did a Facebook post probably within the last 6 months, and talking about this point, is trying to not change your work at every single session. So there's kind of this myth of muscle confusion where you need to completely do a different type of workout every single session to shock the body into growth, which is quite frankly ridiculous. Okay, the body's going to adapt to a progressive stimulus. Okay, so therefore you need to be having a very similar routine, more volume to that routine over a chronic period of time. So that's not to say that changing your routine doesn't have its place, it does, but to be changing every single session, how do you know whether you're making progress? Because you're doing one workout one week, completely different workout the next. You can't measure your volume, you can't measure your strength against each other because you're doing different movements. So for example, some of the movements you'll get a neural adaptation before you even start seeing the hypertrophic response. This is very, very important. So it's not to say changing routine doesn't have its place, it does, but it needs to be kind of over a chronic period of time. So you're sticking with one thing, adding more volume, some more sets, progressively more load to the bar, and then you may change some of the exercises down the road, and then you're going to keep them exercises in and then make progress on those exercises. That's very, very important. Once you've got the foundation in place, it's progress from that. So more sets, more weight on the bar. Very, very important, because like I said, there's a big kind of muscle confusion, just shock the muscle nonsense. It's all about progressive stimulus, okay? Fourth thing is patience. If you're going to stay natural, this takes a hell of a long time, especially when you're past the beginner phase. I know Eric Helms talks about once you've kind of passed kind of 5, 6, 7 years of training, it's more about focusing on strength, not looking to actually increase weight on the scale in terms of body weight. And if you did that over a chronic period of time, hopefully there'll be some structural changes to your physique. But once you've passed that kind of 5, 6 years of training, it's very difficult to see any measurable progress, certainly over an acute short period of time. However, if you're kind of in that beginner intermediate phase, I'm not sure you're going to like the sound of it, but anything between like 1 to 2 pounds per month is going to be very good for a natural training. I don't know, that doesn't sound a lot, but I know you hear people kind of mention kind of £1 a week, but reality is, especially if you're an intermediate, you have that over a whole year. So what's that, £52? You really think that's all going to be muscle? Of course it's not, especially if you're a natural trainee. If you're on anabolic steroids, obviously this doesn't quite apply to you. But unfortunately it's a very slow process. So therefore, as you do progress, turn into more of an advanced training, focusing on the performance aspect of the results in the gym can be a useful tool. So that's pretty much wrap these 4 things up. So just to clarify, number 1, energy surplus, need to be an energy surplus, and the degree of the surplus will vary depending on the individual. Some people require a greater surplus than others. Also, it's very important to consider the how advanced the training is, because obviously, like I said, a very advanced trainers are going to need a small surplus, otherwise they're just going to get fat. Like I said, they're not going to be building muscle at the same rate a beginner will, who will probably require greater surplus and will limit their fat gain from that individual compared to this individual, the advanced training. So second thing, progressive overload. You need to be adding more weight to the bar, and then big compound lifts, more volume, so potentially more sets. Very, very important. You need to be, if it's not every single week, it needs to be, okay, if we look to your training poundages volume, week 1 compared to week 16, there should be progress within there. Third thing was patience, time. Like I said, the degree of how much muscle will gain over a period of time depends how advanced you are. Genetics obviously play a big role. But like I said, the more advanced you get, the smaller the visual changes are. Certainly over a short period of time, it takes a long, long time. Fourth thing was obviously not changing your workouts too frequently, having a foundation in place. Hopefully it should be worked around the big compound lifts, like I said, squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press, or degrees of pressing movements within the bench press and the overhead press. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've liked the video, please like it, and also subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to upload as many videos as I can.